The ship fell through green clouds like a stone dropped into deep water. Inside, 300 humans held onto anything they could find. Metal screamed. Lights flickered. Captain Deho gripped his chair and watched the jungle planet grow larger in the cracked viewing screen. This was supposed to be their execution. The Galactic Council had decided humanity was too dangerous to exist, but they were too civilized to simply shoot them, so they chose Verdant 9 instead, a planet that killed everything that landed on it. 17 alien expeditions had tried to explore this world. None survived more than 3 days. The Council called it mercy. Deho called it murder with extra steps. The ship hit the canopy at an angle. Branches thick as buildings caught them, slowed them, then broke apart. The vessel tumbled through layers of green. Somewhere in the back, people screamed. The emergency systems wailed warnings that nobody needed to hear. They were crashing. Everyone knew it. When the ship finally stopped moving, half of it was buried in mud and the other half hung in massive trees. Deho tasted blood in his mouth. His head throbbed, but he was alive. Around him, others were groaning, crying, calling out names. He unbuckled and stood on shaking legs. His first officer, Tai-Jin, was already moving through the tilted corridor, checking on people. The man had been a soldier once before he joined the colony mission. Now that training was useful again. Status, Deho called out. Hull breach in sections 4 and 7. Medical bay is intact. We've got wounded but no confirmed deaths yet. Tai-Jin's voice was steady, professional. But Captain, you need to see this. Deho followed him to a torn opening in the hull. What he saw made his chest tight. The jungle was already moving toward them. Vines crept across the metal like green fingers. Flowers the size of dinner plates opened and closed in patterns that seemed too deliberate to be natural. In the trees above, things watched them. He couldn't see them clearly, just shapes and glowing eyes. The air smelled sweet and rotten at the same time. Even breathing felt dangerous. We need to move the wounded to the center of the ship, Deho said. Seal every breach we can, and someone find me our xenobotanist. What was her name? Hyejin, Tai-Jin answered. I saw her helping in medical. They found Hyejin wrapping bandages around a man's bleeding arm. She was young, maybe 25, with dirt on her face and fear in her eyes, but her hands were steady. I need you to tell me about this planet, Deho said. Hyejin looked up at him. I only know what was in the council files. Verdant 9 has a hostile ecosystem. The plants are carnivorous. The atmosphere has toxic pockets that move with the wind. The predators hunt in organized groups. Everything here evolved to kill. Evolved to kill aliens, Deho corrected. Maybe not humans. Maybe, Hyejin said. But she didn't sound hopeful. For the first 3 hours, they focused on the wounded and securing the ship. But supplies were limited. The medical equipment that survived the crash wouldn't last long. Food reserves were damaged. Water filtration was working, but barely. Outside, the jungle pressed closer. Vines had completely covered the hull now. Flowers bloomed in impossible colors, and the sounds started. Clicks and whistles and something that sounded almost like laughter. A woman named Sora, one of their doctors, came to Deho with a tablet. I've been running scans of the air. The toxic pockets Hyejin mentioned? They're real. But they seem to move in patterns. If we can figure out the pattern, we can predict safe times to go outside, We have to go outside, someone asked. Eventually, Deho said. The ship won't protect us forever. This jungle will get in. We need to understand it before that happens. That night, they sealed themselves in the most intact section of the ship. Deho posted guards at every breach, though he wasn't sure what good it would do. Through the gaps in the hull, he could see lights moving in the darkness. Bioluminescence. The jungle glowed like a city at night, all blues and greens and purples. Up in orbit, someone was watching them. The Galactic Council had left a satellite to record their deaths. Deho wondered who had the job of watching the footage. Did they feel anything? Guilt? Satisfaction? Or just boredom? There was one person watching who felt more than she expected. Princess Stellara of the Lumineth Empire sat in her observation ship, eyes fixed on the screens. She had volunteered for this duty because she was curious about humans. The council spoke of them with fear and disgust. They said humans were violent, unpredictable, and refused to follow proper civilization protocols. But watching them now, Stellara saw something different. She saw people helping each other. A man giving his food to a child. A woman singing to calm someone's fear. These didn't look like monsters. They looked like people trying to survive. She was supposed to just record and report, document the extinction of a species. But something in her chest felt heavy watching them. These humans had done nothing except exist in a way that made the council uncomfortable. Now they were dying for it. On the planet below, Hyejin couldn't sleep. She stood near a breach in the hull, looking out at the glowing jungle. Her whole life she had studied plants. She loved how they grew, how they adapted, how they turned sunlight into life. But these plants felt different. They felt aware. A vine near the opening shifted slightly. Hyejin held her breath. The vine moved again and a flower bloomed at its tip. The flower was beautiful, with petals that shifted through different colors. It leaned toward her like it was curious. Hyejin did something stupid. She reached out slowly and touched one petal. The flower didn't attack. It just brushed against her finger, soft as silk. Then it withdrew and the vine retreated back into the darkness. When Hyejin turned around, Taejin was watching her. That was either very brave or very foolish, he said quietly. Maybe both, Hyejin admitted. But did you see? It was curious. Not aggressive, just curious. One flower doesn't mean the whole jungle is friendly. No, Hyejin agreed, but it means the jungle might not be mindlessly hostile either. It might be possible to communicate. To coexist, Taejin considered this. The captain needs to hear this. As the first night on Verdant 9 came to an end, the humans were still alive. In orbit, Princess Stellara noted this in her report with a small surprise. She expected them to die quickly like the others, but they were still breathing, still moving, still trying. She increased the resolution on her sensors. This might take longer than 3 days after all. And for reasons she didn't fully understand, she was glad. 7 days passed and the humans were still alive. Princess Stellara checked her instruments 3 times to make sure they were working correctly. According to every record, every scientific model, the humans should be dead by now. The longest any expedition had survived on Verdant 9 was 4 days. But there they were, moving around outside the crashed ship. Building things, exploring. She zoomed her sensors in on a group led by the woman called Hyejin. They were collecting plant samples, carefully cutting leaves and flowers, storing them in sealed containers. This was completely different from how other species had approached the jungle. The others had tried to fight it, burn it, destroy it. The humans were studying it. On the planet, Hyejin knelt beside a cluster of purple mushrooms. They pulsed with soft light, breathing in rhythm with each other. According to her scanner, they were highly toxic to most known species. But she had a theory that kept growing stronger with each sample. These compounds, she said to Mireille, the chemical engineer working beside her, they target silicon-based cellular structures. But humans are carbon-based. I think we might be able to process some of these plants safely. Might? Mireille raised an eyebrow. That's not very scientific, I know. But we're running out of food. We need to know. Hyejin looked back toward the ship where 300 people were rationing meals that wouldn't last another week. I'll test it on myself first. Absolutely not, said a voice behind them. Captain Deho approached with Taejin at his side. We don't have enough medical supplies to save you if you're wrong. We test on cell samples first, then tissue cultures, then maybe a small animal test if we can catch something. Hyejin wanted to argue, but he was right. Okay, but we need to move fast. Agreed, Deho said. He looked around at the jungle that surrounded them. We need to split into teams. Exploration, resource gathering, defense, and research. Taejin, you're leading defense training. The former soldier nodded. I've been watching the predators. They hunt in patterns like wolves, but they're predictable. They hit at dawn and dusk, avoid the midday heat, and they never cross certain plant boundaries. I think some of the flowers mark territory, and the predators respect those boundaries. Can we use that? Deho asked. Maybe. If we can identify which plants mark safe zones, we can map safe routes through the jungle. This was how the humans began to adapt. Instead of fighting the jungle, they learned its rules. Taejin taught groups how to move quietly, how to watch for predator signs, how to tell safe areas from dangerous ones. He showed them that panic was deadly. The jungle responded to fear somehow. People who stayed calm had a better chance of surviving. Mireille set up a makeshift laboratory in one of the ship's intact sections. She began testing plant compounds systematically, cataloging which ones were toxic to humans and which weren't. The results surprised everyone. More than 60% of the plants that were deadly to other species were harmless to humans. Some were even nutritious. It's like this planet was designed to kill silicon-based life, Mirai explained to the gathered crowd. But we're built differently. Our chemistry is alien to this ecosystem in a way that protects us. So the council sent us to a planet that can't kill us, someone said. They didn't know, Hyejin added. No one's ever tested human biology against Verdant 9's ecosystem. They just assumed it would be fatal like it was for everyone else. A laugh rippled through the group. It started small but grew. They were laughing at the irony, at the council's mistake, at their own unexpected fortune. The galaxy had tried to execute them and accidentally sent them to paradise. Daeho let them laugh. Morale was important, but privately he knew they weren't safe yet. Survival meant more than just not dying. They needed permanent shelter, reliable food, clean water, and a plan for the future. He organized expeditions deeper into the jungle. Small groups, well-trained, careful. They mapped safe routes and cataloged resources. They found a river with clean water. They found fruit trees with sweet, edible pods. They found clearings where sunlight reached the ground and food plants could grow. In orbit, Princess Stellara stopped writing dry official reports. Instead, she filled pages of her personal journal with observations. She watched a human named Sora discover that certain spores actually helped human immune systems. She saw Taejin teaching children how to identify safe plants. She observed Hyejin dancing with joy when she found an entire grove of fruit trees. The princess had never seen people adapt so quickly. Most species, when faced with a hostile environment, either died or retreated. Humans did neither. They learned. They changed. They found ways to turn problems into advantages. One morning, Stellara's breath caught when she saw something new. The humans had built structures. Not inside the ship anymore, but outside. They were using living trees as support beams, weaving vines into walls, and cultivating the aggressive plants into defensive barriers that kept predators away. They weren't trying to survive the jungle anymore. They were becoming part of it. 2 months after the crash, the humans held a celebration. They had enough food stockpiled to last 6 months. They had mapped 50 square kilometers safely. Medical was running smoothly with medicines derived from local plants. And best of all, nobody had died. Hyejin stood at the edge of their main camp looking up at the stars. She knew someone was watching from orbit. The observation satellite wasn't a secret. She thought about that observer, wondered who they were, what they thought seeing humans thrive when they were supposed to die. On an impulse, Hyejin started a project. Over the next week, she cultivated a specific species of fast-growing flowers in a cleared area near the camp. She arranged them carefully in patterns that would be visible from orbit. The flowers bloomed in blues and whites against the green jungle floor. From space, they formed words in Galactic Standard language. "Thank you for watching over us." When Princess Stellara saw the message, she sat frozen for 3 hours. The humans knew she was there. They knew someone was watching their death sentence play out, and instead of anger or pleas for rescue, they sent gratitude. Something cracked in Stellara's chest. These people had been condemned to die. The galaxy had thrown them away, but they were grateful to know someone witnessed their survival. They were thanking her for just paying attention. She made a decision that broke a dozen laws. She sent a stealth probe down to the planet carrying a datapad with a simple message. "I'm watching." And I'm amazed. When Hyejin found the datapad hidden near the flower message, her hands shook as she read it. She showed it to Daeho immediately. "We have a friend up there," she said. Daeho looked at the device, then up at the sky. "One friend in orbit is better than none in the galaxy. But be careful. We don't know what they want." But Hyejin thought she understood. Whoever was watching them wasn't looking at corpses anymore. They were watching people live. And that changed everything. She typed a response. "Who are you?" The answer came the next day. "Someone who thinks the council made a mistake. I'm Stellara." And so began a friendship that would change both of their worlds. 3 months on Verdant 9, and the humans were doing something that should have been impossible. They were getting healthier, stronger, even happier than they had been on the cramped colony ship before the council's judgment. Hyejin walked through what everyone now called the garden, a cultivated area where they grew food. The plants here were a mix of species from across the jungle, all tested and proven safe for human consumption. Some were fruits that tasted like honey mixed with citrus. Others were root vegetables rich in proteins. There were leafy greens, edible flowers, and fungi that could be cooked into something close to bread. She picked a ripe fruit and bit into it. Sweet juice ran down her chin. 6 months ago, she was studying agriculture on peaceful worlds, learning how to grow earth crops in alien soil. Now she was Earth's first expert on Verdant 9 cuisine. Life was strange, her datapad buzzed. A message from Stellara. Are you eating well? Heejin smiled and typed back, better than well. I'll show you. She took pictures of the garden, of the food they had prepared for dinner, of the storage areas filled with supplies. She sent them up to the satellite. Stellara's response came quickly. This is incredible. You've created abundance from a death world. The death world is feeding us, Heejin wrote. It was never our enemy. It just didn't know us yet. In orbit, Princess Stellara stared at the images. The humans in the photos looked vibrant and healthy. Their skin glowed. They smiled easily. Some had even gained weight, their bodies filling out from near starvation to healthy strength. This wasn't survival. This was thriving. She thought about the 17 alien expeditions that had died here. They had treated the jungle as an enemy to conquer. They brought their own food, sealed themselves in artificial environments, and tried to terraform the planet to match their needs. The jungle had fought back against invaders, but humans hadn't invaded. They had asked permission in their way. They studied instead of destroying. They adapted instead of demanding the planet change for them. And Verdant 9 had responded by feeding them. On the planet, Dr. Sora made an announcement that excited everyone. She had been studying the effects of local spores on human biology, particularly ones that floated through the air during certain seasons. These spores, she explained to the gathered crowd, they bond with human immune cells and make them more efficient. People who have been here longest are showing enhanced healing, better resistance to disease, and increased stamina. The air itself is making us stronger. So the toxic atmosphere that was supposed to kill us is actually improving our health? Taijin asked. For humans, yes. For the silicon-based species that tried before, those same spores were deadly. It's all about chemistry, someone in the crowd laughed. The council really didn't do their homework. No, Daeho agreed. They assumed all life would react the same way. They were wrong. That evening, Heejin sent another message to Stellara. We're not just surviving. We're evolving with this place, becoming part of it. Stellara's response took longer this time. When it came, it was more personal than usual. I envy you. I've lived my whole life in sterile ships and artificial habitats. You've found something real. What's stopping you from finding something real? Heejin asked. Duty, family, expectations. I'm a princess of the Lumineth Empire. My life was decided before I was born. Heejin thought about this. Then she wrote, We were sentenced to death. Our lives were decided too. But we're here anyway, eating fruit and laughing. Sometimes the life you're given isn't the one you have to keep. In orbit, those words hit Stellara harder than she expected. She looked around her observation ship at the cold metal walls and artificial lights. She had everything a princess could want. Luxury, power, status. But she had never bitten into fruit so ripe the juice ran down her chin. She had never felt real soil under her feet. She had never laughed the way she saw those humans laughing in the videos Heejin sent. She made another decision that broke protocol. She started routing supplies to the planet. Medical equipment listed as damaged beyond use that actually worked fine. Seeds from agricultural worlds that were accidentally ejected near the human camp. Tool shipments that malfunctioned and landed on Verdant 9 instead of their intended destinations. Each time, she sent a message. From a friend. Heejin knew what Stellara was doing and understood the risk involved. A princess helping condemned humans could lose everything. She made sure to send gratitude and updates, pictures of children playing, of meals shared, of gardens growing. She wanted Stellara to see that her help mattered. The human settlement expanded. They built more structures, all working with the jungle instead of against it. They discovered that certain tree species grew in ways that created natural rooms and corridors. They learned to encourage vine growth into walls that were stronger than steel. They found plants that produced waterproof leaves perfect for roofing. Mireille created the first batch of wine from fermented jungle fruits. It was strong and sweet and made people's heads spin in pleasant ways. They held a tasting party and Heejin took videos to send to Stellara. I wish you could taste this, she recorded. I wish you could be here with us. Stellara watched the video dozens of times. She watched humans dancing, singing songs in their native languages, celebrating life in a place meant to kill them. She felt a longing so strong it hurt. 4 months in, Taejin led an expedition to a river valley 20 kilometers from camp. They found something amazing: fields of wild grain that humans could eat growing in natural abundance. They also found thermal vents that created warm water pools, perfect for bathing and relaxation. "This place is incredible," Taejin reported back to Daeho. "We could build a whole second settlement here. The grain alone could feed us for years." Daeho approved the expansion. Within weeks, they had a satellite camp in the valley with its own gardens, shelters, and storage facilities. The humans were spreading across Verdant 9, and the planet welcomed them. Heejin developed what she called the Verdant Cookbook, a growing document of recipes using local ingredients. There was spiced root stew, honey fruit tarts, grilled river fish with herb sauce, and roasted nuts that tasted like chocolate. She sent copies to Stellara. "You're making me hungry," Stellara messaged back. "Lumineth food is nutritionally perfect but tasteless. Everything is optimized. Nothing is joyful." "Joy is nutritional too," Heejin wrote. "Maybe the most important nutrient." In the months that followed, the humans discovered more of the jungle's gifts: trees that produced natural antibiotic resin, flowers whose pollen could be processed into pain medicine, fungi that, when dried and ground, made powerful fertilizer for gardens. The planet that was supposed to consume them was instead providing for them. Every day brought new discoveries, new possibilities, new reasons to celebrate being alive. And every day Princess Stellara watched from orbit, feeling the cold metal walls of her ship close in a little tighter. She had documented humanity's extinction and instead witnessed their rebirth. She had stayed distant and professional and instead became a friend. She looked at her latest message from Heejin. It was a simple invitation. "When we cook big meals, we set an extra place at the table. It's for you. One day we hope you'll fill it." Stellara touched the screen gently. In her heart, a dangerous thought grew. Maybe one day she would. 5 months after the crash, Heejin did something that Daeho would have forbidden if he had known about it in advance. She left a message for Stellara that changed everything between them. She had been thinking about their friendship, about the careful distance Stellara maintained even while helping them. The princess shared some personal thoughts but always pulled back when things got too real. She sent supplies but never explained exactly who she was or what power she had. Heejin understood caution, but she also believed in honesty. So she cultivated another flower message in the clearing, visible from orbit. This one was more direct. "Thank you for watching over us. We know you're risking everything. That makes you family." When Princess Stellara read those words through her sensors, her hands trembled. Family. These humans considered her family, not because of blood or political alliance, but because she had chosen to care when no one else did. She sat in her observation ship for 3 hours, staring at that message. Her real family, the Lumineth Royal Court, had never made her feel as valued as these condemned humans did. Her father saw her as a political tool. Her siblings saw her as competition. Her people saw her as a symbol, not a person. But Heejin and the others saw her as a friend, as someone who mattered. Stellara broke the biggest protocol yet. She sent a personal message, unencrypted, with her full identity. "My name is Princess Stellara of the Lumineth Empire, daughter of Emperor Kiros, heir to the Crystal Throne. I was assigned to document your extinction. Instead, I've been documenting my own awakening. You've shown me what life can be, what it should be. I don't know how to thank you for that." When Heejin received the message, she ran to find Daeho. The captain read it twice, then looked at her with raised eyebrows. "A princess," he said flatly. "We've been messaging with royalty. Does that change anything?" Heejin asked. Daeho considered. "It means our friend in orbit has real power. It also means she has a lot to lose by helping us." He looked at Heejin seriously. "You need to be careful. If her people find out she's been aiding us, they might hurt her." "Then we protect her like she protected us," Heejin said. Daeho nodded slowly. "Agreed, but how?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Taejin, who had been mapping the deep jungle, returned with a strange report. There were areas where the jungle seemed to think. Bioluminescent patterns that responded to presence. Vines that moved with purpose. Flowers that bloomed in mathematical sequences. "I think there's an intelligence here," Taejin told the Leadership Council. "Something aware. Something old. Heejin felt excitement rush through her. If the jungle is sentient, we need to communicate with it. Really communicate? Maybe get permission to be here permanently? Or it could kill us for trespassing, Mirai pointed out. It's had 5 months to kill us, Heejin countered. It hasn't. I think it's been studying us like we've been studying it. Maybe it's time for a proper introduction. Daeho approved a diplomatic mission into the deep jungle. Heejin, Taejin, and Mirai would go, along with 3 others trained in xenobiology and linguistics. They would bring gifts, cultivated flowers, prepared foods, and examples of human art. Before they left, Heejin sent a message to Stellara. We're going to meet the jungle's heart. If something happens to us, know that your friendship meant everything. Stellara's response was immediate and panicked. Don't go. It's too dangerous. Every expedition that went deep never returned. They went as conquerors, Heejin wrote back. We're going as guests. There's a difference. The journey took 2 days of careful travel through parts of the jungle they had never explored. The trees here were ancient, so massive that 10 people couldn't circle their trunks with joined hands. The canopy was so thick that sunlight barely reached the ground. Everything glowed with soft bioluminescence, and the jungle was definitely aware of them. Vines moved aside to clear paths. Flowers bloomed to light their way. Predators watched from the shadows but didn't attack. It felt like walking through a living cathedral, and they were expected guests. On the 3rd day, they found it. A clearing where the trees formed a perfect circle around a massive fungal structure. It pulsed with light in waves of blue and green and purple. The patterns were complex, rhythmic, almost like language. It's beautiful, Heejin whispered. Mirai was already setting up equipment. I'm reading electromagnetic patterns, chemical signals, even sound waves below human hearing. It's communicating on multiple frequencies at once. Can we talk back? Taejin asked. I can try to build a translation interface, but it'll take time. They set up camp in the clearing. The jungle consciousness seemed content to observe them. While Mirai worked on the translator, Heejin and the others laid out their gifts. Fresh bread made from jungle grain, flowers woven into decorative patterns, drawings and paintings made by children in the settlement. The fungal network pulsed in response. Vines grew slowly toward the gifts, touching them gently, examining them. It was curious, Heejin realized. Just like that first flower had been curious about her touch months ago. In orbit, Stellara watched with sensors at maximum resolution. She barely slept, afraid to miss anything. She saw the humans setting up camp, saw them arranging gifts, saw them sitting peacefully in the presence of something that should terrify them. She also saw something else. Other ships had entered the system, Lumineth military vessels responding to reports of her extended absence. They were coming to retrieve her. She had maybe 3 days before they arrived. 3 days before her illegal help for the humans was discovered. 3 days before everything changed, she sent a warning to Heejin. My people are coming. When they arrive, I won't be able to protect you anymore. I'm sorry. But Heejin was too focused on the fungal network to respond immediately. Mirai had gotten the translator working. The first message they received from the jungle consciousness was simple but profound. Alone. So long alone. Heejin approached the network slowly, respectfully. You've been alone? For how long? The response came in waves of color and chemical signals that the translator rendered into words. Millennia. Others came. Others destroyed. Had to defend. Had to kill. Lonely after. So lonely. Understanding crashed over Heejin. The 17 expeditions hadn't been consumed by a mindless hostile jungle. They had been defended against by a lonely intelligence that had been attacked too many times. The jungle wanted connection but could only find violence. We don't want to destroy, Heejin said clearly. We want to live here. With you, as partners, as friends. The network pulsed rapidly, processing. You are different. You learn. You adapt. You respect. You could be friends? Yes, Heejin said, and her voice cracked with emotion. We could be friends. If you'll have us. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The entire jungle seemed to bloom at once. Flowers opened everywhere. Bioluminescence flared bright as day. And through the translator came something that could only be described as joy. Yes, yes, friends, finally friends. Taejin smiled wider than anyone had ever seen. I think we just made the biggest diplomatic breakthrough in human history. Wait until the council hears about this, Mirai laughed. But Heejin was thinking about Stellara's warning. The princess had 3 days of freedom left. 3 days before the galaxy's attention turned back to Verdant 9 and the humans who refused to die. She sent a message up to orbit. We did it. The jungle accepted us. We have proof now. Proof that we belong here, that this planet wants us. When your people come, we'll show them. We'll show everyone. Stellara read the message through tears. Her humans had befriended a planetary consciousness. They had achieved what no other species could. And she was about to lose them to politics and power plays she couldn't control, unless she did something dramatic, something irreversible, something that would change her life forever. She looked at her shuttle bay, then at the planet below, then at the approaching military ships. She had 3 days to make a choice that would define her entire future. Princess Stellara stood in her shuttle bay wearing clothes she had never worn before. Simple pants, a practical shirt, boots made for walking instead of ceremony. She had stripped off every piece of royal jewelry except one small crystal pendant her mother had given her before she died. Everything else was left behind. Her hands shook as she loaded supplies into the shuttle. Food from a dozen worlds, medical equipment, tools, seeds, everything she could carry that might help the humans. Her official observation log sat on her command chair with a note attached. Tell my father I'm sorry, but I found something worth more than a throne. The military ships would arrive in 6 hours. By then, she would either be on the planet or dead trying to reach it. There was no middle ground left. She launched the shuttle without clearance, without approval, without permission. Alarms blared across her observation ship, but there was no one aboard to hear them. She was already diving toward the green planet below, her heart racing faster than it ever had in her carefully controlled life. In the settlement, Hijin was preparing dinner when someone shouted about a ship entering atmosphere. For a moment, everyone froze in fear. Was the council coming early? Were they about to be attacked? Then Deho's communication device crackled. This is Princess Stellara. Please don't shoot me. I'm coming down. I'm coming home. Hijin dropped the fruit she was holding. Teijin grabbed his weapon out of instinct, then slowly lowered it. Mirai started laughing in disbelief. Around the camp, people emerged from buildings, staring up at the sky where a small silver shuttle was descending on pillars of blue fire. She's actually doing it, Hyejin whispered. She's actually coming. The shuttle landed in the main clearing, engines whining down into silence. For a long moment, nothing happened. Inside the craft, Stellara was trying to remember how to breathe. She had just abandoned her empire, her family, her entire life, for people she had only spoken to through messages, for a planet she had never touched. This was either the bravest or stupidest thing she had ever done. The shuttle door opened. Stellara stepped out on shaking legs, and the first thing that hit her was the air. It was warm and humid and smelled like growing things. Real air, not recycled, not filtered. Air that had never been inside a machine. The second thing that hit her was seeing Hyejin in person. The woman was shorter than she expected, with dirt on her hands and leaves in her hair. She was smiling so wide it looked like her face might split, and she was real. Actually real. Not just pixels on a screen. You came, Hyejin said, and her voice was thick with emotion. I had to, Stellara replied. I couldn't watch anymore. I had to be part of it. Then Hyejin was hugging her, and Stellara realized she had never been hugged like this before. Royal embraces were careful, political, measured. This was genuine and warm and squeezed the breath out of her lungs. Other humans gathered around, introducing themselves, touching her arms gently, welcoming her like she was family. Captain Deho approached with his characteristic directness. Your Highness, you understand what you've done? Your people will come looking for you. I know, Stellara said. They'll be here in less than 6 hours. But I brought something that might help. She gestured to her shuttle. Documentation. Scientific proof of everything happening here. Human adaptation. The sentient jungle. Chemical analyses. Video evidence. Everything the Galactic Council needs to see that you're not just surviving, but thriving in partnership with this planet. Will that be enough? Teijin asked. I don't know, Stellara admitted. But it's better than nothing. And I'll testify personally. A princess's word carries weight, even if it's a princess who ran away from home. Mirai started unloading the supplies from the shuttle, her eyes widening at each container. This is incredible. You brought medicine we couldn't even dream of getting. I brought everything I could think of, Stellara said. I just wish I could have brought more. Hyejin took her hand. You brought yourself. That's more than enough. They gave Stellara a tour of the settlement and she felt tears threatening with every step. The humans had built something beautiful here. Structures that blended with the jungle, gardens that celebrated the planet's natural abundance. Children playing in clearings while adults worked on projects both practical and artistic. This was what life should be. Not sterile corridors and artificial light, not duty and protocol, but dirt under fingernails, sweat on foreheads, laughter in the air, and the satisfaction of work that mattered. I've lived in palaces, Stellara said quietly to Hyejin. I've seen wealth and luxury beyond imagination. But this is richer than anything I've ever known. You're welcome to stay as long as you want, Hyejin replied, even if it's just for a few hours before your people take you back. They won't take me easily, Stellara said with more confidence than she felt. That evening, the humans held a feast in Stellara's honor. They roasted fish from the rivers, prepared fruits in sweet glazes, made bread from jungle grain, and opened bottles of the wine Mirai had fermented. They set a place of honor for Stellara at their central table. The princess sat among them, tasting food that burst with real flavor. Nothing was optimized or nutritionally balanced. Everything was just delicious. People told stories, sang songs, laughed at jokes she didn't quite understand but laughed at anyway, because joy was contagious. Someone taught her a human dance. She stumbled through the steps and everyone cheered when she got it right. A child gave her a flower crown. An old man shared poetry in Korean that Hyejin translated. A woman showed her paintings of the jungle rendered in natural dyes. For the first time in her life, Stellara felt like she belonged somewhere. Not because of her title or her blood, just because she was there and they wanted her there. As the evening wound down, she sat with Hyejin looking up at the stars. They're coming soon, Stellara said. The military ships. When they arrive, everything gets complicated. We'll face it together, Hyejin promised. You're not alone anymore. Neither are you, Stellara replied. I'm going to make sure the galaxy knows what you've accomplished here. Even if they punish me for helping you, they'll have to acknowledge the truth. What will they do to you? Strip my titles, probably. Exile me. Maybe imprison me. Stellara smiled sadly. I'm breaking a lot of laws by being here. Then why risk it? Stellara looked at her new friend, at the settlement beyond, at the living jungle that pulsed with bioluminescent welcome. Because you showed me that there are things worth more than safety, worth more than duty. You were sentenced to death and chose life anyway. How could I do less? Above them, ships entered orbit. Lumineth military vessels bristling with weapons and authority. They began broadcasting demands for Stellara's return. Threats of consequences, promises of leniency if she came willingly. Deho listened to the transmissions and shook his head. They're not messing around. Good, Stellara said, standing up. Neither are we. Open a channel. I'll speak to them. What followed was a conversation that would be studied in diplomatic schools for generations. Princess Stellara, standing in a jungle clearing surrounded by condemned humans, told her father's military commanders exactly what she thought of the Galactic Council's judgment. She presented evidence of human success, of planetary partnership, of life thriving where death was promised. She spoke as a scientist, showing data. She spoke as a witness, describing what she saw. And finally, she spoke as someone who had found purpose, explaining why she would not return. I was sent to document an extinction, she said clearly. Instead, I found the future. These humans have proven that the galaxy's assumptions were wrong. They deserve a chance to plead their case before the full council, and I will stand beside them when they do. The military commander's response was cold. Princess, you will return to custody or we will retrieve you by force. Then you'll have to come down here and drag me back, Stellara replied. And I don't think the jungle will let you. As if responding to her words, the entire jungle lit up. Bioluminescence flared from every tree, every flower, every vine. The sentient network was making a statement. The humans were under its protection now, and so was their friend. The standoff lasted 3 days. Lumineth military ships circled in orbit while Princess Stellara remained on the surface with the humans. The ships couldn't attack without risking the princess's life. The princess wouldn't return without guarantees for the humans' safety. And the humans, for their part, prepared for whatever came next. On the 3rd day, everything changed. More ships arrived. Not just Lumineth vessels, but representatives from across the Galactic Council. Word had spread about the princess who abandoned her throne for condemned criminals, about humans thriving on a death world, about a sentient planet choosing sides. The galaxy was watching now, and they wanted answers. Captain Deho called an emergency meeting. They're demanding a formal hearing. The full Galactic Council wants to review the human situation. They're giving us a chance to present our case. That's good, right? Hyejin asked. Maybe, Taejin said carefully. Or it's a show trial before they wipe us out properly. Stellara shook her head. No, my father is among the fleet now. He wouldn't come personally if this was just about punishing me or eliminating you. He's genuinely curious. The whole council is. You've done something no one predicted. They have to acknowledge that, so what do we do? Mireille asked. We tell the truth, Deho said. We show them everything. The settlements. The partnerships with the jungle. The food, the medicine. The proof that we belong here. Stellara stood up. And I'll testify. As a member of the Lumineth royal family. As a trained scientist and as someone who watched you transform a death sentence into a home. My word will carry weight. The hearing was conducted via holographic transmission. The entire Galactic Council appeared as projections in the main clearing. Hundreds of species, thousands of representatives, all focused on the small group of humans standing in a jungle that should have killed them months ago. Emperor Kiros, Stellara's father, spoke first. His voice was stern but not unkind. Humans of Earth's lost colony, you were sentenced to Verdant 9 as punishment for your species' aggressive expansion and refusal to accept council authority. This sentence was meant to be final. Yet you live, explain. Deho stepped forward. He had prepared for this moment, but his speech wasn't rehearsed. It was just honest. We live because we learned. We studied this planet instead of fighting it. We asked permission instead of taking. We adapted our behavior to match the ecosystem, rather than demanding the ecosystem change for us. And the planet responded with generosity. Impossible, said a council member from the Zeth Collective. Verdant 9 is categorically hostile. 17 expeditions confirm this. 17 expeditions tried to conquer, Hyejin interjected, stepping forward beside Deho. We tried to understand. There's a difference. She presented their research. Chemical analyses showing human compatibility with local flora. Medical reports documenting improved health outcomes. Agricultural data proving sustainable food production. And finally, the translated communications with the jungle consciousness itself. The council members stirred uneasily. You claim the planet is sentient? One asked. I don't claim it, Hyejin said. I proved it. And I can demonstrate. She signaled to Mireille, who activated the translation device. The fungal network's voice rendered into galactic standard filled the clearing. Humans are friends. Humans are welcome. Humans are protected. The silence that followed was profound. A sentient planet had just testified in a Galactic Council hearing. Nothing like this had happened in recorded history. Then Princess Stellara stepped forward. I have observed these humans for 6 months. I have documented every aspect of their survival and success. And I have concluded that the Council made an error in judgment. These people are not dangerous criminals deserving execution. They are adaptable, intelligent, and capable of extraordinary partnership with their environment. You are biased, a council member challenged. You abandoned your post to live among them. I abandoned nothing, Stellara said firmly. I found something better. I found proof that different approaches to life are possible. That cooperation can achieve what domination cannot. These humans have befriended a planetary consciousness that killed everyone else who tried to land here. That should tell us something about the value of their perspective. Emperor Kiros studied his daughter through the hologram. You would give up your throne for them? I already did, Father, Stellara replied. The moment I landed, I chose them. I chose truth over politics. I chose life over protocol. For a long moment, the Emperor was silent. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. You remind me of your mother. She also believed in following truth wherever it led, regardless of convenience. He turned to address the full council. I have reviewed my daughter's documentation. The evidence is compelling. These humans have achieved what should be impossible. They have not only survived but thrived through adaptation and partnership. To continue their death sentence would be to ignore objective reality. They still violated council law, someone argued. Laws can change when new information emerges, the Emperor countered. That's why we have these hearings. The debate that followed lasted hours. Council members argued about precedent, about human history, about risk and reward. Some wanted the humans destroyed regardless of their success. Others were fascinated and wanted to study them. Still others recognized a political opportunity. Through it all, the humans stood patiently in their jungle home, surrounded by bioluminescent flowers in the presence of an ancient consciousness that had chosen them as friends. Finally, Emperor Kiros called for a vote. The question before the council: should humanity's death sentence be overturned, and should they be granted provisional status as a member species with Verdant 9 recognized as their sovereign territory? The voting took an hour. Each species had to consult, debate, decide. Stellara held Hyejin's hand tightly. Deho kept his face neutral, but his jaw was clenched. Taejin stood ready to defend their home if the vote went wrong. The results came in: 62% in favor, 38% opposed. They had won. Barely. But they had won. Emperor Kiros delivered the verdict. By council majority, humanity is granted provisional membership in the galactic community. Verdant 9 is recognized as a human sovereign world and embassy. The humans will be monitored for a probationary period of 10 years, after which full membership will be considered. This decision is final. The holographic council members vanished, leaving the humans alone in their clearing. For a moment, nobody moved. Then someone started laughing, then crying, then cheering. They had been sentenced to death and had just been granted a future. Hyejin turned to Stellara. "You did it. You saved us. We saved each other," Stellara corrected. She looked around at the jungle that glowed with celebration, at the humans who had become her family, at the life she had chosen over the one she was born into. "I think I got the better end of this deal." Emperor Kiros's personal vessel remained in orbit. He sent a private message requesting to speak with his daughter. Stellara went to the communication hub with Hyejin beside her. Her father's hologram appeared, and for the first time in years, he looked at her with genuine warmth. "You've grown, Stellara. Grown beyond what your tutors could teach you, beyond what the court could shape you into. I found something real, Father, something worth more than ceremony." "I can see that," he said. "I won't order you to return. You're an adult and a princess who has just demonstrated exceptional courage and judgment, but know that you're always welcome home." "This is home now," Stellara said gently. "But I'll visit. And Father, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting truth matter more than politics." "Your mother would be proud," he said simply. Then his hologram faded. That night, the humans held another celebration, but this time it wasn't just survival they celebrated. It was recognition, acceptance, a future that extended beyond tomorrow. Princess Stellara danced with farmers and scientists. She ate fruit that dripped sweet juice. She laughed until her stomach hurt. And she knew with absolute certainty that she had made the right choice. In the jungle around them, the ancient consciousness bloomed with joy. It had been alone for so long. Now it had friends, an entire species of friends who would protect it as it protected them. The galaxy had tried to end humanity. Instead, humanity had shown the galaxy something new, something better, and in doing so had changed the future for everyone. 1 year after the crash landing that was supposed to kill them, the humans of Verdant 9 welcomed their first official visitors. A delegation from the Galactic Council arrived to inspect the settlement and evaluate humanity's progress during their probationary period. Captain Daiho stood at the landing pad they had built, watching the diplomatic shuttle descend. Beside him were Hyejin, Taejin, Mirai, and Princess Stellara. They wore clothes made from jungle fibers, dyed in natural colors. They looked healthy, confident, and completely at home. The delegation stepped out cautiously. They wore environmental suits, breathing through filters, eyes wide behind protective visors. The contrast was striking. The humans stood in the open air, breathing freely, while their visitors sealed themselves away from the planet. "Welcome to Verdant 9, Daiho said formally. "We're honored by your visit." The lead delegate, a tall being from the Vren species, nodded carefully. "Captain Daiho, we are here to observe and document your progress. The Council requires proof that humanity can maintain stable civilization on this world." "Then let us show you," Hyejin said with a warm smile. "Let us show you what we've built." The tour began at the main settlement. The delegates saw structures that grew from living trees, walls woven from cooperative vines, and roofs made from leaves that repelled water naturally. They saw gardens producing abundant food. They saw water purification systems that used natural filtration through specific plant roots. They saw everything working in harmony. "This is remarkable," one delegate admitted. "We expected primitive survival shelters. This is sophisticated architecture." "The jungle taught us," Stellara explained. She had become the humans' primary liaison with the council, using her diplomatic training to bridge cultures. When you work with nature instead of against it, nature gives generously. They visited the medical facility where Dr. Sora demonstrated medicines derived from local plants. She showed treatments that were more effective than synthetic galactic pharmaceuticals for certain conditions. The delegates took samples asking questions, clearly impressed despite their reservations. In the agricultural zones, Hyojin presented crops that thrived in jungle conditions. Fruits, vegetables, grains, and fungi that could feed thousands. "We've developed sustainable farming that actually improves soil quality instead of depleting it," she explained. "The jungle consciousness guides us toward beneficial practices." "You still claim the planet is sentient?" a delegate asked skeptically. "I don't claim it," Hyojin said patiently. "I communicate with it. Would you like to meet?" She led them to the deep jungle where the fungal network pulsed with light. Mirai activated the translation device. The jungle's voice filled the clearing. "Welcome, visitors. Humans are friends. Humans make the jungle stronger. Do you also wish to be friends?" The delegates recoiled slightly. Hearing a planet speak was deeply unsettling to species who viewed nature as something to be managed and controlled, not partnered with. One delegate found courage to respond. "How do humans make you stronger?" "They bring diversity," the jungle answered. "They ask questions. They grow new things. They protect me from those who would harm. They are good companions." The delegation spent 3 days inspecting every aspect of the human settlement. They interviewed people, analyzed data, tested samples, and observed daily life. Some remained skeptical. Others grew increasingly fascinated. But all of them had to admit that humanity was thriving. On the final evening, the delegates attended a community gathering. The humans held these regularly, where people shared food, told stories, made music, and celebrated life. The delegates were invited to participate. Taejin demonstrated martial arts that incorporated jungle movement patterns. Children performed a play about the first months on the planet, making even the delegates laugh at the exaggerated fear of harmless flowers. Mirai presented her latest wine vintage. Hyojin taught anyone interested how to identify edible plants. Princess Stellara sat with her father, who had come with the delegation. Emperor Kiros looked around at the celebration with something close to wonder. "You're happy here," he observed. "Happier than I ever was at court," Stellara admitted. "Father, I know you hoped I would return eventually. But this is my life now. These are my people. I can see that," he said, "and I won't take you from them. But the Lumineth Empire would like to establish an embassy here, to learn from what you've accomplished. Would the humans accept that?" Stellara's eyes widened. "An embassy? You want to learn from us? Your partnership with this planet represents a new approach to colonization, one that could solve problems we've struggled with for centuries." He smiled. "Besides, I want to visit my daughter occasionally. An embassy makes that easier." Stellara hugged him tightly. Yes, we would welcome that." The delegation's report to the Galactic Council was overwhelmingly positive. They recommended not just continuing humanity's probationary status, but accelerating it. Within 6 months, humanity would be granted full membership in the galactic community, with Verdant 9 recognized as the first human embassy world. More importantly, other species began requesting permission to visit. Scientists wanted to study the human-jungle partnership. Diplomats wanted to learn cooperation techniques. Even tourists came, carefully guided through safe zones, experiencing a planet alive with consciousness and beauty. The humans built carefully, never expanding faster than the jungle approved. They established satellite settlements in the river valleys and mountain foothills. Each community maintained the same philosophy: partnership over domination, adaptation over conquest, respect over exploitation. Hyojin became the galaxy's leading expert on human-planet symbiosis. She wrote papers, gave lectures, and consulted with colonies struggling to terraform hostile worlds. "Stop fighting the planet," she would tell them. "Start listening to it." Taejin trained security forces from multiple species in his philosophy of defensive cooperation. His students learned to protect without destroying, to maintain boundaries without creating enemies. Mirai's research into jungle biochemistry led to medical breakthroughs that helped species across the galaxy. She shared everything freely, believing knowledge should benefit everyone. Princess Stellara split her time between diplomatic duties and personal joy. She helped negotiate treaties, welcomed new visitors, and represented both humanity and Verdant 9 in galactic affairs. But her favorite moments were simple ones: walking through gardens with Hyejin, learning to cook new dishes, teaching children about the stars. 2 years after the crash, on the anniversary of their landing, the humans held a special celebration. They invited everyone who had helped them: Emperor Kairos, friendly council members, scientific partners, and curious visitors. The jungle itself participated, blooming with spectacular displays of bioluminescence. Deho gave a speech that night. We were sent here to die. The galaxy looked at us and saw danger, chaos, something to be eliminated. But we looked at ourselves and saw potential. We looked at this planet and saw partnership. We looked at death and chose life instead. That choice made all the difference. He raised a glass of wine made from jungle fruits. To everyone who believed we could survive. To everyone who helped us thrive. To Stellara, who risked everything to stand with us. To Verdant 9, who welcomed us as friends. And to humanity, who proved that adaptation is stronger than domination. To humanity, the crowd echoed, humans and aliens alike. Later, Hyejin and Stellara walked through the garden they had planted together. It was their favorite place, where Earth plants and Verdant 9 native species grew side by side, learning from each other just like their caretakers had. Do you ever regret it? Hyejin asked. Giving up your throne, your old life? Stellara laughed. Every single day I'm grateful I found the courage to leave. That wasn't living, Hyejin. That was existing. This is living. What do you think will happen next? Hyejin wondered. For us, for humanity, for everything? I think we keep growing, Stellara said. Like these gardens, we take what works, we adapt what doesn't, and we make sure everyone has enough sunlight to thrive. She smiled at her best friend. The galaxy thought the jungle would consume us. Instead, we showed them how to grow. Above them, the stars shone bright. Ships moved between worlds, carrying trade, knowledge, and friendship. Humanity had taken its place among the galactic community, not through conquest or compliance, but through cooperation and courage. And on Verdant 9, in gardens that bloomed with impossible beauty, humans and aliens and an ancient planetary consciousness proved every single day that life finds a way when given a chance. The jungle had consumed nothing. Instead, it had nurtured everything. And in return, it received protection, appreciation, and love from people who understood that the greatest strength isn't in taking what you want, but in building what you need together. The galaxy had tried to end humanity's story. But humanity had other plans. They wrote a new story instead. One with gardens instead of graves. One with partnership instead of punishment. One with hope instead of despair. And the best part? The story was just beginning.